Rights of migrant workers. International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrants Workers and Members of Their Families. Article 32. Upon the termination of their stay in the state of employment, migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to transfer their earnings and savings and, in accordance with the applicable legislation of the states concerned, their personal effects and belongings. Article 33. 1. Migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to be informed by the state of origin, the state of employment or the state of transit as the case may be concerning a. Their rights arising out of the present convention, b. The conditions of their admission, their rights and obligations under the law and practice of the state concerned and such other matters as will enable them to comply with administrative or other formalities in that state. 2. States parties shall take all measures they deem appropriate to disseminate the said information or to ensure that it is provided by employers, trade unions, or other appropriate bodies or institutions. As appropriate, they shall cooperate with other states concerned. Article 34. Nothing in the present part of the Convention shall have the effect of relieving migrant workers and the members of their families from either the obligation to comply with the laws and regulations of any state of transit and the state of employment or the obligation to respect the cultural identity of the inhabitants of such states. Article 35. Nothing in the present part of the Convention shall be interpreted as implying the regularization of the situation of migrant workers or members of their families who are non-documented or in an irregular situation or any right to such regularization of their situation, nor shall it prejudice the measures intended to ensure sound and equitable conditions for international migration as provided in Part 6 of the present Convention. Part 4. Other rights of migrant workers and members of their families who are documented or in a regular situation. Article 36. Migrant workers and members of their families who are documented or in a regular situation in the state of employment shall enjoy the rights set forth in the present part of the Convention in addition to those set forth in Part 3. Article 37. Before their departure, or at the latest at the time of their admission to the state of employment, migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to be fully informed by the state of origin or the state of employment, as appropriate, of all conditions applicable to their admission and particularly those concerning their stay and the remunerated activities in which they may engage as well as of the requirements they must satisfy in the state of employment and the authority to which they must address themselves for any modification of those conditions. Article 38. 1. States of employment shall make every effort to authorize migrant workers and members of their families to be temporarily absent without effect upon their authorization to stay or to work, as the case may be. In doing so, states of employment shall take into account the special needs and obligations of migrant workers and members of their families, in particular in their states of origin. 2. Migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to be fully informed of the terms on which such temporary absences are authorized. Article 39. 1. Migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to liberty of movement in the territory of the state of employment and freedom to choose their residence there. 2. The rights mentioned in paragraph 1 of the present article shall not be subject to any restrictions except those that are provided by law, are necessary to protect national security, public order, order public, public health or morals, or the rights and freedoms of others and are consistent with the other rights recognized in the present Convention. Article 40. 1. Migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to form associations and trade unions in the state of employment for the promotion and protection of their economic, social, cultural, and other interests. 2. No restrictions may be placed on the exercise of this right other than those that are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interests of national security, public order, order public, or the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. Article 41. 1. Migrant workers and members of their families shall have the right to participate in public affairs of their state of origin and to vote and to be elected at elections of that state, in accordance with its legislation. 2. The states concerned shall, as appropriate and in accordance with their legislation, facilitate the exercise of these rights. Article 42. 1. States parties shall consider the establishment of procedures or institutions through which account may be taken, both in states of origin and in states of employment, of special needs, aspirations, and obligations of migrant workers and members of their families, and shall envisage, as appropriate, the possibility for migrant workers and members of their families to have their freely chosen representatives in those institutions. 2. States of employment shall facilitate, in accordance with their national legislation, the consultation or participation of migrant workers and members of their families in decisions concerning the life and administration of local communities. 3. Migrant workers may enjoy political rights in the state of employment if that state, in the exercise of its sovereignty, grants them such rights. Article 43. 1. Migrant workers shall enjoy equality of treatment with nationals of the state of employment in relation to a. Access to educational institutions and services subject to the admission requirements and other regulations of the institutions and services concerned. B. Access to vocational guidance and placement services. C. Access to vocational training and retraining facilities and institutions. D. Access to housing, including social housing schemes, and protection against exploitation in respect of rents. E. Access to social and health services, provided that the requirements for participation in the respective schemes are met. F. Access to cooperatives and self-managed enterprises, which shall not imply a change of their migration status and shall be subject to the rules and regulations of the bodies concerned. G. Access to and participation in cultural life. 2. States parties shall promote conditions to ensure effective equality of treatment to enable migrant workers to enjoy the rights mentioned in paragraph 1 of the present article whenever the terms of their stay, as authorized by the state of employment, meet the appropriate requirements. 3. States of employment shall not prevent an employer of migrant workers from establishing housing or social or cultural facilities for them, subject to Article 70 of the present Convention. A state of employment may make the establishment of such facilities subject to the requirements generally applied in that state concerning their installation. Article 44. 1. States parties, recognizing that the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state, shall take appropriate measures to ensure the protection of the unity of the families of migrant workers. 2. States parties shall take measures that they deem appropriate and that fall within their competence to facilitate the reunification of migrant workers with their spouses or persons who have with the migrant worker a relationship that, according to applicable law, produces effects equivalent to marriage, as well as with their minor dependent unmarried children. Article 45. 1. Members of the families of migrant workers shall, in the state of employment, enjoy equality of treatment with nationals of that state in relation to a. Access to educational institutions and services, subject to the admission requirements and other regulations of the institutions and services concerned. B. Access to vocational guidance and training institutions and services, provided that requirements for participation are met. C. Access to social and health services, provided that requirements for participation in the respective schemes are met. D. Access to and participation in cultural life. 2. States of employment shall pursue a policy, where appropriate in collaboration with the states of origin, aimed at facilitating the integration of children of migrant workers in the local school system, particularly in respect of teaching them the local language. 3. States of employment shall endeavor to facilitate for the children of migrant workers the teaching of their mother tongue and culture and, in this regard, states of origin shall collaborate whenever appropriate. 4. States of employment may provide special schemes of education in the mother tongue of children of migrant workers, if necessary in collaboration with the states of origin. Article 46. Migrant workers and members of their families shall subject to the applicable legislation of the states concerned, as well as relevant international agreements and the obligations of the states concerned arising out of their participation in customs unions. Enjoy exemption from import and export duties and taxes in respect of their personal and household effects as well as the equipment necessary to engage in the remunerated activity for which they were admitted to the state of employment. A. Upon departure from the state of origin or state of habitual residence. B. Upon initial admission to the state of employment. C. Upon final departure from the state of employment. D. Upon final return to the state of origin or state of habitual residence. Article 47. 1. Migrant workers shall have the right to transfer their earnings and savings. In particular, those funds necessary for the support of their families, from the state of employment to their state of origin or any other state. Such transfers shall be made in conformity with procedures established by applicable legislation of the state concerned and in conformity with applicable international agreements. 2. States concerned shall take appropriate measures to facilitate such transfers.